question. What do you do when what you see doesn't look anything like what God has said? What do you do when God is speaking stuff over your life that is not materializing? What do you do when the preacher is preaching about joy and you go home still depressed? I can't get any real people in here today. Everybody brought their church face. What do you do when the preacher is preaching about blessing and the preacher is preaching about peace and your home is full of turmoil and cussing and fussing and fighting and demons and eye-rolling teenagers and messes? I'm saying sometimes what God says doesn't look like what you see. And the enemy loves to use your problems to block your perspective. See, the thing about Jericho, history lesson, Jericho was a very small city. It wasn't too big, but the walls were really high. This was the first city that the Israelites would have to take. Now, after Jericho, they would move on to Ai. And after Ai, they would move on beyond that place. And they would conquest throughout the entire land. And God would give them great victories. But it started with Jericho. Jericho, although not a big city, was a well-defended city. High walls. Jewish historians tell us that in this time there were really only 5 ways to deal with a walled city. But God is about to give his people a strategy that has nothing to do with any of those 5 ways. And I'll tell you why. Because sometimes in order to be victorious, you got to be willing to do something that looks ridiculous. And sometimes to win the battle God's way, you got to be willing to do some stuff that won't make any sense. And I'm going to show you that in this passage. One of the wonderful things about worshiping God, one of the wonderful things about coming to church is it lifts your perspective so you can see past the walls. If all you ever see is problems, so Joshua looks up and he sees a walled city. But it doesn't matter what he sees, because what God says is his reality. I wanted you to know today that no matter what you're looking at that's staring you in the face, it's not a sign that you're never getting into what God promised. It might just be a sign that the devil has gotten desperate because he knows he can't keep you out much longer. I don't know what you're looking at in your life today that doesn't look right, that doesn't line up with the Word of God, but I can tell you something about perspective. I can tell you something about perseverance. I can tell you something about persistence. Some of the greatest things that you'll see God do in your life will be because you went back and looked again. Some of the greatest things you'll see God do in your life will be things that you were about to walk away from. But you came back just one more time to say, no, wait a minute. Let me look at this differently. Because I was about to give up on this marriage. But I think I see something that I didn't see last time. So let me get a different perspective. We always think that God's presence is provided to fix our problems. But what if God's presence is more about fixing your perspective? So that you have a new way to see your problems. If I promised you today that God was going to fix all your problems the first time you went back and looked at them, I could make the church shout. We could have a good emotional experience. And we'd have 18,000 disappointed people when you go back home and everything you left looks just like it looked when you left it. If you didn't make up your bed this morning, it ain't made by angels when you get back home from church. If you didn't put anything in the crock pot before church, it's not going to be a feast when you get home. It's faith, not sight. They're opposites. We always think that the opposite of faith is doubt. The opposite of faith scripturally is not doubt, it's sight. So the opposite of faith is not that I have questions sometimes. The opposite of faith is that I accept the surface answer to my question. The opposite of faith is that I don't look through it. Touch somebody and say, look again. Look again. Because sometimes you look at something in your life and it'll seem like there's no way out. That's how Moses felt when he was standing at the Red Sea and he wanted to know, what do I do about these chariots? And God spoke to Moses and said, it won't be the chariots that'll kill you. It'll be your complacency, because I can make a way through it if you look again. Now, as long as you're looking back at the chariots that are chasing you, you won't see the way that I've chosen to make in front of you. But if you look again, I believe you'll see water starting to split. I believe you'll see a sign that I'm with you to deliver you. I believe if you look again, you'll see something that was there all along. Look again. Touch somebody, say, take another look. That's for every single person. That guy that broke up with you, I know he didn't see much in you, but he needs to look again. Because the next time he sees you, you're going to have such a confidence about who God made you to be that you know that you didn't need him to begin with. And what he did, all he did is make you take another look within yourself to see, I am something. I am special. I am valuable. I do have something to offer. High five somebody, say, look again. I know I don't look like much right now, but look again. I'm coming to the back. I'm coming to the very back of Blakeney to tell somebody who's been looking at something in your life that seemed hopeless, that God brought you here on this mountain and gave me this microphone to tell you, look again. Look again. Look again. Look again.